policy analyst Abdullahi Boru Halakhe joins us for more on this. A very good evening to you. Thank you so much for your time. I mean, we've just seen the two heads of state walk down a red carpet and be swifted off in a luxury vehicle. Of course, the stakes are pretty high as these talks get underway. What are some of the expectations?
I think the critical thing that a lot of people are expecting is a real breakthrough of what has been a grinding, years of war now. Even the most ardent supporter of Ukraine at this point will have to figure out how long can this go on. But the reality is the template for this has been set. The president is not really interested in the nitty-gritties of, first stage, building consensus, confidence building between the parties in order for it to go to the next level. He is really interested in quick win, photo op, and then move on. And therein lies the problem, because this is not something that can really be reduced to photo op for the president, who, whether you believe him or not, is really interested in winning the Nobel Peace Prize.
And there are some key issues that the leaders will need to go into depth as they sit down for this talk to resolve and achieve an end to the war in Ukraine. Do you believe that this will pave a breakthrough at all? I mean, we've just listened to some Americans saying that they're hoping that it will resolve something. Some are saying that they're skeptical that this will amount to anything, while others are saying they're hoping that it's not just for Trump and about Trump.
It is more in hope than in anything else. And, at a moment where international diplomacy, multilateralism is on its back foot, the meeting in and of itself, as a person who is interested in peace and security, I don't have any problem with it. But at the same time, we've got to manage our expectations that this could lead to any major breakthrough. But at the same time, we have to move away from the skepticism that is very warranted. At the same time, you'd rather have Jojo than whoa.
Yeah. U.S. President Donald Trump has said that he will not be negotiating on behalf of Ukraine. And what about the issue of security guarantees? Because Russia says it wants Ukraine to be neutral, although we know that in practice, all that essentially means is a weak neighbor with no ties to the West.
And that is why you've seen the Western countries, especially Western European countries, major NATO allies, are really concerned, because the way this is going on right now is Donald Trump and Vladimir Putin are meeting one-on-one. This doesn't involve the Ukrainians. This doesn't involve the Europeans, especially the NATO allies, who have been paying the price. They've increased their defense budget. They have stopped taking cheap oil and gas from Russia. They've imposed a series of sanctions on Russia. And now, at the time when these supposed peace talks between that is meant to resolve one of the most intractable conflict in the center of Europe, they are being sidelined. So therefore, that is really disconcerting for them. But the big question is, what cards do they have to play? Because land is at stake, a weaker Ukraine is at stake, expansion of NATO is at stake, EU and potentially even NATO membership for Ukraine is at stake. Would Vladimir Putin be able to negotiate that? He doesn't want to. All he wants is to be in good grace of the United States, and especially in the presidency, so that at the very minimum, he can stall this conflict, grind it, and make it very, very painful for the Europeans who are paying the price, and also divide the Europeans away from the United States. Then the Ukrainians will have to figure out a weaker Europe or a stronger United States with which Putin is willing to negotiate.
What about sanctions and trade? Because we know that Russia wants economic sanctions that have been imposed on Moscow to be lifted, while Zelensky is saying that Russia should now face new sanctions if it doesn't agree to an immediate ceasefire.
I think we've hit peak sanctions. If there's one lesson that we've learned from this, the primary function of sanctions, as it were, designed really, is to change the state's behavior. What we've seen, whether it's with Russia, whether it's with Sudan, whether it's in North Korea, whether it's with Iran, sanctions do not work. They have become an easy tool that many of the governments who do not want to take hard positions just show the people that, oh, look, we are doing something. Russia has been sanctioned. We've hit peak sanctions, like I've said. We are into an era of, what I call the industrial level of sanctions on Russia. And it has not changed Russia's behavior. To my mind, there is sanction, there is the current status quo, and then there is speaking. And to my mind, having these conversations going on and then rather fight on the real weeds of what the conversations are is more useful than being outside and saying that we are not going to have any conversation with Russia. Russia is going to stay. Russia is part of Europe. And the earlier we start figuring out how they are going to be integrated, and that could take the form of, look, you move back from some of the territories that you've taken in Ukraine, we will ease some sanctions. That is an adult diplomatic conversation that you can have, rather than continue fighting, continue supplying weapons, and all the while, nothing is being resolved.
Absolutely. Thank you so much. Of course, leaving that conversation there.